everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and today is day 6 of the 12 Days of Candles, a series featuring a mix of new favorites and returning classics across a variety of brands, price points, and fragrance families, all appropriate for buying and burning during and beyond the holiday season. There will be new 12 Days of Candle videos throughout the month of December and probably into January at this point, if I'm being honest. And the candles appear in no particular order, so be sure to stay tuned to see if your favorite appears on the calendar. Today's in-depth sniff candle review will be on Harlem Candle Company's Holiday Candle with Essence of Winter Spruce. But before we dig into that, if you're new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for fine home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, how I do it, you can check out my website at TouchTheFireTwice.com. But for now, let's dig into Harlem Candle Company's Holiday Candle. Now, if you're not familiar with Harlem Candle Company, I urge you to check them out. They're doing really beautiful blends and candles, and I just love the idea that they use Harlem as a muse for their fragrances, really honoring and celebrating the rich culture, history of the place, of the inhabitants of the era, bygone and present. And it holds a special place in my heart because I lived in Harlem for about 5 years back when I lived in New York City. And so it's really special to me. And I think whether you have lived there, never even visited there, whatever it might be, I think you can really find some beautiful fragrances across a variety of fragrance families and styles, just really elevated, beautiful blends. If you haven't experienced Harlem Candle Company before, you can also check out my brand introduction video and review on their Saint Nick candle, which was Essence of Gingerbread and Holiday Spice, for a little bit more information on the brand, their product offerings, all that sort of thing. But today we're going to talk about holiday. And how I've been doing the 12 Days of Candle videos, very, very similar to my traditional in-depth sniff or in-depth sniff and comparison reviews. I'm going to talk to you very briefly about the box, the product, the art direction of the design, whatever it might be, talk through the scent story that the brand shares, and then give my kind of overview overall, whether I am, transported to a space, a place, a time, a moment, a memory, or if there's a literal interpretation of some botanical item or a gourmand item or whatever it might be. And then we'll go through and learn together, because so many of these candles are truly fine fragrance, perfumer built or even master perfumer built fragrance blends. There are going to be top, middle, bottom notes, maybe 4, 7, 10, 12 notes in some of these. And some of these notes are things that you may be familiar with. You're like, oh, I know what fir balsam smells like. Or there are other notes that you just don't know the nuance between them, or you may have never even heard of some of them. And for those, I want to dig deep into those to understand not only how they are expressed in this particular blend, but what they typically show up as and what they're used for and what they mean, olfactorily in fine fragrance. And so we'll go through all the notes, top, middle, bottom, to explore those together. So first, reading the kind of scent story of this candle as I show it to you. Do the unboxing here. We've got a print of some sort of vintage Harlem scenes there. And this is their 11-ounce 2-wick candle. Gives you about an 80-hour burn time. Really pretty clean burn there, as you can see. Strong burner. Really, really love their 2 wicks. 1 wicks, sometimes you gotta work on a little bit. 2 wicks, you're gonna really be able to expect a consistent, healthy burn and throw on these. The scent story, they tell us, is the holiday candle is inspired by Billy's favorite perfume, Emerald, an aromatic green blend of fresh winter spruce, pine needles, and mint-infused eucalyptus, fir balsam, and spicy cedarwood, developing into a feminine heart of ethereal blue hyacinth. Strong and full-bodied, yet fragile and dreamy, just like Lady Day. Sets a beautiful mood for holiday time and all year round. And I would agree that this is, with the idea of the all year round, this is a green, evergreen, winter spruce focused scent, but this could be a year-round fragrance, depending on your vibe, your personal taste, your location, your weather, whatever influences your burning habits. It's not an obvious, just sort of traditional, say, Christmas tree scent like you'll get from many brands for holiday candles. The name holiday, though it very much does evoke the mood of the season, the name is even more so about Billie Holiday versus being a candle that is really just appropriate for holiday time. So getting my nose on it, this candle is cooling, arctic, and fresh. It's not very sweet. It has a botanical, sharp, green, herbaceous edge, but don't let that scare you off. It starts with the strong spruce, bright green, sharp, a little bit musky, because it is spruce. And that same green strength is really aided by the kind of minty eucalyptus, which adds an astringent, arctic, airy note with a powdery coolness. And that plays with the fresh green hyacinth, countering any sweet freshness. Though this is a cool, fresh, green, invigorating fragrance. There is a soft base of that kind of resinous cedar and balsam to add the traditional balsamic woody undertones. And finally, though not listed in the notes, there's almost like a dark, tart, half-ripe blackberry or some sort of dark but tart berry in the background. Perhaps it could be a black currant, but almost like a tart, underripe blackberry to me. And it just adds a little hint of a tart sweetness for me. Overall, it's invigorating, it's intense, refreshing, bright, and current with a nod to a more classic time. So I'm a big fan of this. I burned it 3 or 4 times, as you can see, healthy burn. As I said before, really good strength throw projection, not a concern. This will healthily project into a moderate size space. Now let's dig into these top, middle, and bottom notes together. We've got spruce, hyacinth, pine needles, eucalyptus, fir balsam, and cedarwood. And why I love digging into these scent notes together is because when we think of balsam versus spruce versus pine needles, I think most of the time we're just like, oh, it's an evergreen scent or it's a Christmas tree scent. But there really are distinct, subtle, and sometimes not so subtle differences between a spruce and a balsam. So let's learn together. So when it comes to a spruce, they call winter spruce or just a traditional spruce, it's going to be a bright green woody fragrance with sweetish undertones. It's really a true evergreen. And there's one key element to it that I think sets it apart from some of the other evergreens that you're familiar with, and that is that sharp and punchy, musky, almost cat-like urine, subtle edge to the fragrance. It is not going to overwhelm, but there is a muskiness. And I always call out when I'm talking about spruce, don't think of that as, oh my gosh, I don't want something that smells like cat pee. It's not truly that, but there is a muskiness. But when we think of amber fragrances and any fragrance that has a musk note in it, though most nowadays are gonna be synthetic, originally we're talking about like fragrances that came from glands of animals. Like, let's call it what it is. And so the idea of there being sort of a muskiness to this that is like cat-like, don't immediately think, oh, that's disgusting because I don't like cat litter. That's not what you're gonna get from any sort of spruce candle, spruce fragrance, or actual tree itself. But it's sharp and punchy. Spruce is also going to be a bit more dry and tannic than your balsams, but it is refreshing, invigorating, and strong. Really that sharp, right, almost metallic front of your nose evergreen. And that is so forward in here that is your one and only kind of top note. Getting into the middle notes, we've got hyacinth. Now hyacinth, a floral in a holiday sort of, again, Arctic, green, airy, invigorating fragrance might seem a bit surprising, but hyacinth is considered an intense, sharp green, multifaceted floral note. There's a bitter, vegetal, almost aquatic accent, balanced with also some kind of sweet, honey, spicy notes. So really a well-rounded and complex floral note. It's actually Greek for flower of rain and stands for remembrance, which I think is appropriate for a Billie Holiday candle. Hyacinth is intensely green, fresh, and damp. They say green as spring itself. The smell of hyacinth is said to develop as the flower itself actually opens. So it kind of starts one way, and in the story, the fragrance itself develops and evolves over that time. And so when it's in that tight bud, it's light, almost ethereally floral. And as it opens, it becomes potent and intoxicating, but still carrying that kind of damp greenness throughout. It's commonly used in white floral fragrances or really fresh spring fragrances. This is not a spring fragrance. Of course, having spruce and eucalyptus and balsam and cedarwood will keep this from being spring-like, but the hyacinth really does add something that's refreshing away from the freshness that you get from your spruces and your minty eucalyptus and pine. It's hard to say truly floral because those other notes are very forward. However, the damp, fresh greenness that the hyacinth brings is absolutely there and is one of the things that makes this candle super unique from a traditional holiday evergreen Christmas fragrance. Moving on to pine needles. Now, pine needles, there are hundreds of different pine trees out there, but typically when it's in fragrance, you're going to expect sharp, sweet, refreshing, woody spiciness with those pinene terpenes that are the fragrance molecules themselves. Crisp, green, outdoorsy, invigorating. That's gonna be pine needles, no matter which tree they come from. And then eucalyptus. I think a lot of us are familiar with eucalyptus. It originated in Australia. There are actually over 500 varieties of eucalyptus. It can be sort of citronella-like, sweet, balsamic floral. It's fresh, it's airy, it's clean, can be minty, can be woody, can almost be citrusy, that green camphorous angle to it, a little bit of sort of lemon fresh facets as well. But for me, it's going to often bring that uplifting, almost powdery, but not heavy, like choke you out powder, sort of freshness that is uplifting, invigorating, bringing that outdoor whoosh to a lot of fragrances, including this one to some extent. And then getting down into our bottom, our base notes here, we've got two favorites of mine. I've said this in many videos over time, but especially in the 12 Days of Candles, because these two notes appear in many of the candles that I'm reviewing here. First one being fir balsam. That is the most fragrant evergreen tree. That is the most traditional Christmas tree scent. When you think of Christmas tree scents, you are thinking of fir balsam really directly. Sweet, rich, warm, intensely balsamic, intensely woodsy, resinous, a really sappy sweetness, almost syrupy, but still some of that green camphorous edge. Not quite the menthol, but that cooling, bright, not herbaceousness, not astringency, but that brightness balanced with that deep balsamic, resinous woodiness. Just the beautiful Christmas tree scent, right? And then cedarwood, another big favorite. Cedarwood is going to be deep, dark, resinous, a bit more softly woody, a little bit of earthiness, sweet, can be spicy, also sort of camphorous and cooling at times, but really think the traditional school pencil shavings, that is your cedar or your cedar chest. For me, it is sometimes more of like a soft, sweet, cool wood, not sort of a dry, heavy oak or a creamy, sweet, warm sandalwood. There's a bit of a coolness, almost reddishness to cedars for me, and it's considered less minty than pine and less musky than, say, something like a patchouli. There are many types of cedar, true cedars versus juniper cypress, that can be used as cedars, so we don't know exactly what type of cedarwood is in here, but it is a traditionally scented cedarwood. So when you put that all together, it really is part traditional and part almost contemporary, which I think that speaks to what Harlem Candle Company is going after, is really blending the past and the present through fragrance, which is the best way, because I've always said sniffing things, scent memory, it has the ability to truly make your mind travel through time, because it immediately transports you to that space, that place, that memory, that moment. And that's what they do with the scents at Harlem Candle Company. And so with this holiday candle, you have the traditional, classic cedarwood and balsam and spruce and pine needles, elevated with some of that minty-like eucalyptus. Not surprising, a lot of holiday candles or winter candles have that in there. But when you come and add that green, fresh floral with the hyacinth, that really brings something different to it and sort of moves the scent forward for me. That is that perfect blend of traditional and contemporary when it comes to fragrance. And celebrating, of course, Billie Holiday's impact and presence on culture and history and jazz and music and singing. So I really do love this one. It's one that I'm excited to carry through most of winter, really. You know, some of my true holiday, again, forget the name as far as when you should burn it. This is the Billie Holiday candle, right? And so, though it is winter focused. And so it's something that is not just a Christmas one. This easily into January, maybe even February, when you want that fresh, refreshing. It's still outdoorsy. It's still a bit woodsy, but it is green. It is verdant. It is bright, refreshing, invigorating, but not in an overwhelming way. So I highly recommend checking it out. I believe is one of their most popular candles, you know, throughout the years, certainly within their holiday collection and beyond. And I'm really happy that I checked it out. So that is today's review. Be sure to stay tuned for day 7. We're gonna get through these 12 days together, y'all. I promise we'll make it happen. And until next time, take care.